You're now live. I put on my sexy bra, my sexy bra, my sexy bra. I put on my sexy bra just for Storm. And I'm going to sing that song to her when I bring her onto our live, which we're about to do. Hi everyone. I put on my sexy bra just for you. Sometimes it's like, which came first, the chicken or the egg? Which came first, the depression or the sexy bra? They have a conversation with one another. I am going to bring Storm Large onto this Instagram Live as soon as I get my coffee. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. It's 2 o'clock where Storm is in Portland, Oregon. It is 11 o'clock in the morning. That would be their Sunday. It's 11 o'clock. Look, coffee happening. Coffee happening. Which came first, depression? Yes. This is a Punamu greenstone necklace given to me by my wonderful friend Kaya, who sprained her fucking ankle yesterday. And so what I do is I leave the coffee in for about 4 minutes. I just let it sit and soak. Then I murder it. And if you want to see Amanda Palmer's kitchen tips of the day, this is not a tip. This is like a curse. This is sweetened condensed milk. And when I'm depressed and sad or anxious or just feeling like I want to do some crack cocaine, but mama doesn't do that, this is what I put in my coffee. Sweetened condensed milk. So this is the mug that I'm using. It's white. I love you guys. Hi! I'm so excited for this! Who's excited to see fucking Storm Large? We are going to press our boobs against each other through the internet. Okay, so I put the sweetened condensed milk into the mug, which you can see here. This is the mug. It came with my Airbnb. I really recommend it. And then you put, this is just sugar. Just so you know. It's just sugar that tastes even fucking better than sugar. So you put this in here, and then you add your coffee. You add the coffee, just like this. You pour it in. This is the mug. This is the plunger. And you see, as you can see, I'm pouring the coffee into the cup, and then you stir it. And then it's sweet as fuck! And then you're happy. Yeah! Hi, Argentina. All right, are we ready to do this? Let's get Storm Large on the line. She just texted me, and I know she's ready. Let's give her a great, big, warm welcome. How do we fucking add Storm? We add Storm because Storm waves her hand in the comments and says, Amanda, I'm here. Invite me onto your live. And I go, that's Storm of 69. Hello, Storm. Go live. Storm of 69. Oh, by the way, while she's coming on, our queen.
Hi!
Ah!
I like your sexy bra.
Thank you. Do you want to hear the song?
Sexy bra on, but I'm going to put one on just for you guys.
Put on a sexy bra.
I'm going to put on a sexy bra because, you know, it's time.
Yes!
This is more like of a sport bra.
Bra, that's sexy.
It's kind of sexy. No, my boobs are out.
Okay, I got my
How
coffee.
much did we talk about my boobs in that podcast?
Let's just talk about your boobs for an hour.
All the boobs. No.
I could talk
I got
about your
Santa
boobs all
perfume
day.
over my shoulder.
Oh.
How are you?
How am I?
Yes.
I'm struggling.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What kicked that off today?
Oh, my life?
Yeah. Okay. What can I do?
You can just be my friend
I
and
fucking love
wear
you.
a sexy. Did you just take your bra off?
Yeah, I did. I'm topless right now, sitting at the piano. And I'm going to put this.
In your
So it's
bra?
one of these
Or are you
bras that
just
has
gonna
all
be
these weird
topless?
extra straps. Hold on. Wait, check this shit out. Hold on.
I love you.
We're about to break the internet. Ready?
All right, let's see it.
Hold on.
Sexy bra off.
Sexy bra. Ready?
Let me see sexy bra off.
Now I've got a sexy bra, sexy bra, sexy bra. It's got all kind of strappy.
Wait, hold on. I'm gonna bring the I'm gonna bring the phone over to the piano
Excellent.
because I just got an idea for a song. Sorry about my
Yay,
terrible
good.
pop background. It goes like this. Oh, this is so out of tune, and not in that way where people
Did
are
you
like,
find
"Oh,
that
my
piano
piano's
in the
out of tune." Like,
sea?
this shit has never been tuned. It's just an old piece of art piano, but I'll do what I can. It'll be an art song.
Awesome.
I could talk about your boobs for days.
For days.
I could talk about all of the ways your
Every
bosom
way.
moves me to tears. Oh, I could talk about your boobs for years.
Really beautiful.
Thanks.
That's great, dude.
That's why I get the big money.
Where you get the big money, yo.
That's why you get the big money.
That's
All right,
right.
let's get real. I'm gonna position us somewhere. Hold on.
Okay.
I'm gonna come out here onto the porch. You can see this is Ash's birdhouse that he's working on.
Excellent.
It looks kind of like you.
Let me see. I can't see it. It looks like, oh, that's awesome. So the birdies are going to fly into that thing's mouth.
Nose. That's
That's
the mouth.
dope. How warm is it there right now? You just got into like late spring, right?
It's summer. It's officially summer here.
Nice.
And I'm gonna put the phone on the birdhouse, and I'm gonna do this.
Cool.
No, wait, the light's behind me. Hold on. I'm gonna sit.
Okay.
I'm gonna sit like this. See,
You sit like that.
Wise. You were wise and set up, and I was free roaming. Hi. It's my kitchen.
Why are you sad, baby?
I'm sad because I haven't been home in a year and a half, and I haven't seen anyone that I know outside of the people that I've recently met for a fucking year. And I've been living in an Airbnb taking care of a child alone for 8 months, and I can't believe this happened to my life.
Yeah.
I can't believe this happened to my life.
Yeah. But you guys are good. You guys have open restaurants. You played a beautiful in Auckland. You played shows. You get to hug people.
I cannot explain to you the words that I do not have for the combination of emotions that my entire life has been thrown into. Like, my personal life has been thrown into a trash compactor, but I'm in the only country where I can play a show and where my kid can run around with strange kids on the beach, and like, it is the craziest combination of emotions.
Yeah.
I've never dealt with so much this and so much.
And knowing you probably also have a little smidge of survivor's guilt. No? You're feeling a little bit weird about getting to play a show when none of us get to play a show probably till next July.
Well, feeling weird is not like guilt. Like,
no.
You and I have been through enough like coincidental synchronicities. Like, there's no guilt doesn't help anybody. I've learned that. I've gone through enough of these that I'm like, but that doesn't mean that things can't be incredibly painful.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
It doesn't mean that when I like talk to my friends who all have kids Ash's age, and I check in on them specifically to check in on them, but also to like remember what's going on.
Right.
Because I'm not there. And I get off the phone with them and listen to what they have to deal with. And I just feel enormously sad.
Yeah.
I don't feel guilty.
I get it. I get
no one
it.
to be angry at, but I just feel fucking sad. I feel
it's like you just sort of randomly ended up on the one side of the river that wasn't on fire, and you're watching your friends deal with this giant fire, and you can't go over there and do anything.
No,
I get it, honey.
This, but it's not the fucking same.
No, it's not. I keep hanging on to, when I start to fall apart, I start to hang on to just knowing that the things that we do are like the things that people miss the most. Gathering, celebrating, remembering, forgetting, art, crowds, drinking with strangers, like having
Being-
incredible conversations.
being togethering and spontaneousing, which is like
Yeah.
both of our land of expertise.
Right, right. So do you want to talk about Patreon?
Yeah, I do actually. I want also, because I'm not expecting my Instagram followers to know anything about you.
Oh, you go ahead.
Well,
Talk
no,
about-
you go
talk
ahead.
about
So
everything.
I can say a little bit, but you know, there's 400 people watching. This is gonna stay up on the internet. If you're just tuning in, this is Storm Large.
Hi.
And she's an incredible singer, performer, writer,
Kisser.
activist,
Really good kisser. Activist.
kisser, sex haver, V
Good at the
vitamin,
sex.
V vitamin, B V vitamin, B
You was in your
vitamin,
butt for sure.
B vitamin ass shot in the ass giver. She's a
Mhm.
good ass shot giver because I got one from her.
I was
And
gentle.
I met Storm through our mutual friend Meow Meow, who's also a great singer who lives in Australia. And to make a long story short, and Storm, I just want you to tell people, like I want you to tell people just really briefly about like 2-minute history of Storm's life and your book,
Okay.
especially, and your one woman show, because I could try and explain it, but I think it's better for you to.
Okay.
And when I was going through America on tour, which would have been your America last spring, March, April, May, June of
June.
2019.
Yep.
June. Storm and I had become sort of like Twitter text friends, and I said, hey, I'm coming through Portland. Are you going to be there? And we wound up having like crash course friendship, 5 days sleeping in Storm's house with some of my crew. And I think we knew enough about each other to be like,
Yeah.
this is going to be good. So
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
let's set some time aside because we're really going to like each other.
Yeah.
And Storm came and saw my show, and I kind of accidentally, timing again, like got to see Storm do a read through, like a staged reading of her one woman show, which she then based a book on. And I've written, if you're on my Patreon, you've seen me chat about this stuff, but Storm, why don't you just give people like the crash course? Speaking of crash course, just give them like a fucking crash course in who you are, where you came from, all the badass stuff that you have done, and just give them a snapshot of your
Okay.
career,
Snapshot.
your life.
I was like Amanda, born in rural Mass, very conservative part of the state, where girls drawing attention to themselves was bad. You're not supposed to get attention. But I could sing, and I was lonely. My mother was mentally ill, and my father just checked out. And I was the youngest and the only girl in the house. So I was trying to figure out how to get attention, affection, love. And I could sing. And I noticed when I sang, people not in my family necessarily, but people outside of our family unit looked at me like with surprise and pleasant surprise. Like, wow, that's pretty good. And my dad would be like, oh, she just wants attention. I'm like, fuck yeah, I just want attention. What the fuck? Of course I do. You know? And
I love you.
I love you too.
We had the same childhood.
Yeah, we had the same childhood. There's a lot of shame, like Puritan shame imbued in the East Coast in New England. But anyway, so fast forward, I keep singing, and then I run away from home a lot. I live on the street a lot. I was one of those Harvard Square little homeless punks begging for money outside of Harvard. I used to joke, I sing with the band Pink Martini, is the most famous band I'm in. And Thomas and China, the founders of Pink Martini, they met in Harvard, and an interviewer in like Europe said, oh, did you meet them in Harvard as well? I go, no, they were going to school there. I was there, but it was different for me.
I was begging for drug money.
I think he gave me $20 one time and I bought a bag. So anyway, I ran away from home, finally ended up in California, and just started a band. And of course, as any woman who's an artist knows, men too, but not as badly as women, I started being told how to Oh, if you want to be successful, you have to be skinny, pretty, smart, cool, hooked up somehow, lie about your age. Basically, you'll be great if you're just not you. And so I can't say I'm so great that I'm like, fuck you, man, I'm gonna do it my own way. I was like, well, I guess I'll never be successful, but this is
Small
the only thing.
boobs. Someone
I was
just
like,
commented, small boobs.
small boobs. Small boobs are great.
It changes. The standards of what you've got to have to be famous changes from decade to decade, and they do that on purpose.
Oh,
So
yeah.
you keep getting a boob job just to conform.
Yeah. It's all about the titties. It's all about a lot of stuff. But I noticed a trend in a lot of women singers, not so much now. There's a really great queer movement of women who sing like Peaches and King Princess and you and people who are like, no, we're going to just get into the guts. But there was this period of time, this really creepy period of time where all the girls singing had to sound like they'd never had a period. You know, like, I want to tell you, I'm so tired now. You know, it's very shrill. But no, so then I was singing in San Francisco, started my first band, and was told I was never going to get anywhere. And I was like, well, at least I'll get laid and I'll have something to do. And I love doing this. And so I just kind of kept going. And then weirdly, in a very sideways way, became not famous, but successful. I just kept plugging away and built my own audience and didn't do it necessarily consciously, just people kept following and the crowd kept growing. And then next thing I know, I'm on stage at Carnegie Hall and I was like, holy shit, I did this. Fuck you guys. And then I've been insufferable ever since.
Good. Congratulations.
Thank you. You know what I'm drinking?
We're both drinking out of a white cup.
Cheers. I made a hot toddy with dark chocolate, maple syrup, cayenne, cinnamon, and what do we have, babe? Is it it's Old Forester? Buffalo Trace bourbon. And it's 2:00 in the afternoon, but it's Sunday.
It's Sunday.
It's the Lord's Day. That's why we have spirits.
Good idea.
Mm-hmm.
Well, cheers. I fucking love you.
I fucking love you.
Will you tell them about your memoir?
Yes.
And the show that I saw the run through of?
Yeah. Crazy enough. I was in the play, I did the musical Cabaret where I played Sally Bowles. And when we were doing the
Give us a little Sally.
Okay, let's see. Maybe this time I'll be lucky. Maybe this time he'll stay. Maybe this time, for the first time, love won't hurry away. He will hold me fast. I'll be home at last. I had to sing that in front of Liza Minnelli. Talk about spilling. I know. Yeah.
I met her at some weirdo charity New York party right after I was in Cabaret.
Oh, wow.
I was the MC, right?
Of course.
Someday, you and me.
Dude, fuck you. Let's do an all-female cabaret.
Let's just do it on Instagram during the pandemic.
Yeah.
I loved playing that part and I loved being in that musical, and I didn't get a chance to meet her spontaneously at this teeny party, so before we were leaving I went up and basically got on my knees and kissed her ring.
Right.
And this is probably the only time I'll ever meet you. I just have to I'm not going to make it weird. I'm Amanda Palmer. You've never heard of me. I'm a singer. I was just in Cabaret, but I played the MC. And I love you. Can I just say I love you? And she looked at me and she said, it's great to meet you. Keep working.
Yeah. She's a badass.
Yeah, it was just it was such a great line. I'm I'm stealing
Keep
that.
working.
Keep working.
Yeah, I was doing I'm friends with Michael Feinstein, who's one of her best friends. and he was conducting the Pasadena Pops.
Yeah.
A big outdoor concert, and he asked me to do that song, and they were saying that Liza might come, Liza might perform, and I was like, wow, but they were like, she might not, she hasn't been feeling well, so maybe not, you know. And then next thing I know, I'm on stage and I'm talking about cabaret, I'm talking about the song I'm gonna do, and I look to the side and they're just brought her to the side of the stage and put her in a chair, and she's staring fucking right at me. And I'm like, and I go, and I guess I'm about to sing this song in front of the woman who made it famous. Thank you, Michael.
Oh, come on.
Fuck! Thank God I was wearing a rubber pants.
And I bet she was super fucking
She was
sweet
amazing.
and
She was amazing.
because she's Liza.
Yeah, she's amazing. She's
With a
a
Z.
dope ass woman. Okay, so
We got
Crazy Enough is basically.
we got so sidetracked. So there you were.
Yeah.
Crazy Enough.
So Crazy Enough came about. It was a show first, because while we were doing the read-throughs and the rehearsals, the dramatic rehearsals for Cabaret, it kind of came out about, I was like, yeah, it's such a stretch being a drug-addled showgirl. And so they all kind of got a little bit of my background. And after we wrapped, they said, the theater, Portland Center Stage, Chris Coleman, who was then the artistic director, he said, you know, we should do a one-woman show with you. You should write a one-woman show. And I'm like, yeah, sex, drugs, wieners, boobs, and fart jokes. And he was like, yeah, but we can also maybe talk about your mom. I was like, that's a stupid idea. Nobody wants to see that. And so literally, we talked about this on your podcast, but they took me to like 5 lunches to talk me into doing this. And I was like, maybe if you buy me some Ethiopian food, maybe. And then after my Ethiopian number 5 lunch, I'm such a dick. Just old punk. Fucking musicians, man. You got to feed us. So my business partner, James, I was talking to him and I said, yeah, they took me to Njoni and I ate the fucking ramp bill. And I told them no. I was like, this is a stupid idea. And James, who's known me for 20 years, he's like, yeah, dude, you know, I get it if you're scared. I was like, huh? Yeah. What do you mean? I'm not scared. It's just not a good idea. And he's like, no, dude, you know, I don't know anybody that would be that vulnerable. That's like a really intense story to tell. I'm like, fuck you, I'm not scared. And so the next day I called. And so I wrote it. And it was about growing up in a rural, small town with a mentally ill mom. And it's also a little bit of a snapshot of mental health care in the 70s, because when I was 9, I was visiting my mom at some state hospital, and one of her myriad of doctors said to me that I was going to end up like her because what she had was hereditary. And I was 9, and I was like, and it was something that I kind of, you know, when something is your biggest fear and someone sees it and plucks it out of your head and hands it to you and it's real. I could already kind of see it. I looked a lot like my mom, and I'm like, wow, it only makes sense. And so he said, you will end up like your mother, but probably not until your 20s, or if you have children, whichever comes first. So I was 9. So I was like, okay, what time is it? All right, cool. I have to lose my virginity. I have to figure this out. I have to have fun. I have to have some kind of a life, because I felt like it was just going to be someone clicking a switch, and I was going to be, people were going to look at me like, yeah, it was like the sword of Damocles. People were going to look at me like the way people look at my mom, which was with pity and with fear and with wanting to avoid her, get away from it because it was uncomfortable. And I was like, oh man, well, I gotta, you know. So yeah, drugs and sex and waiting to go crazy. And then the punchline, I'm 51 now, and I still get worried when I get really dark, because I mean, artists, we get really we feel everything. We're big peeled clits moving around the world, you know, and shit hits us and we're like, oh fuck, because we feel it for everybody. We got all this empathy and all this fucking like simpatico feelings and tendrils out, and we're connected. oh, and so we get gutted so easily. But every now and then, if I get really, really dark, I'm like, oh shit, maybe this is it. And then you hear of somebody who snapped in their 50s, and you're like, oh fuck, I'm not out of the woods yet. But yeah, then I did the show. It was a huge success. People loved it. And then my friend, who's a novelist, he convinced me to make it a book. And boy, I fucking hate writing books.
It's so boring. I never want to write a book again, and I think I might be about to.
I know, we all have to. We have to write more books.
It's so boring.
I hate it.
It's so boring.
I know.
It's so
lonely.
Yeah, and it's also like, it's not just boring. It's boring in the meanest way, because there you are writing about interesting emotional things, and you're just sitting in a fucking chair living this boring, repetitive, mundane, boring life.
And no one is cheering and asking to go down on you.
It's lonely.
Yeah.
And
the whole time I'm like, this sucks. This is going to suck. Because when I tell a story on stage or sing a song, it's my voice and I can control the energy of how I tell the story. But a book, it sits in a stranger's hand and it's their voice or whatever voice they've decided your voice is. And so you can't defend it. Like, no, but I was a kid, but you're going to think I'm a dick.
Did you do it? I think we talked about this audiobook. Did you ever do that?
Not yet. No, I think I know.
You got to do an audiobook.
I haven't had time, but now I have time.
Yeah. To the person who just commented, you're a great MILF. I don't know if you're talking to me or Storm.
I don't have children.
I'm technically a mother that you'd like to fuck. Storm is kind of a motherfucker.
I'm a motherfucker you'd like to fuck.
But neither of us would probably ever have sex with you because you sound awful. So I'm sorry.
I think though, people, to be fair,
I'm sorry.
Sometimes men will say MILF or whatever to be complimentary. They think that that's what we want to hear.
Oh, yeah.
So it might be
complimentary, honey.
It's not. It's. I mean, whatever. It's like that's the trap of that patriarchy. It's like, well, we want you to feel like, instead of feeling like a whole realized beautiful person, they're like, I'd totally stick it in your mouth. You're welcome.
You're so not ugly that I might fuck you.
Right.
And that's
I remember
hot. When I hear that, I just get all tingly.
But it's, I mean, not for, I mean, I don't want to get too into the weeds of this, but it's like, we grew up in a patriarchal society. So did the dudes. So they don't know.
They don't know.
There's guys not trying to belittle or be rude or to diminish us. They just are like, this is what works in this society.
Right. So if you are anyone really, dude or dudette or anywhere in between, and you're listening to us, there's so many complimentary things that you could say other than, I think for reason X, I'd stick my dick inside you. Like, there's just a billion other things you could say. Be creative.
Yeah, be creative. Right. Be creative.
Be creative.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
We were going to talk about Patreon, but before we do that, to set the stage, tell me about, so now you guys know a little bit about Storm, Pink Martini, her book. We also did a podcast together, which you should go listen to it because it's just fucking an hour and change of us
just chewing it up.
Chewing it up and being hilarious at each other, pressing boobs.
Boobs.
Pressing mind boobs.
Mind boobs.
Tell me, before we talk about Patreon, tell me about what it was like that 5 days when you didn't just meet me, you came to my show in Portland at the Crystal Ballroom. So you met my world, kind of.
Yeah.
What was it like to meet, like, land of Amanda Palmer's show, especially like getting a sense of all the people that were there and the crazy story that happened on night one of my Portland show? Like, tell that story, because that story is going to set some landscape for talking about Patreon and how we do it, why we do it, and how it works.
Okay. Amanda Land.
Amanda
Landa. So I'd read The Art of Asking and I knew the story.
That's my
And
book. If you didn't know that, that's a book I wrote.
yeah, but that was the tour, right? No, The Art of Asking. No, it was There Will Be No
There Will Be No
Intermission.
Intermission.
Right. But that was not a book, but that was a fucking, I remember I was talking to you through the process and you're like, this show is going to be life changing. 3 fucking hours. This bitch fucking has pavement in her throat. She just could fucking sing through anything, cry through anything, get through anything. So she's staying in my house and I'm hanging out with her. And then I go to the show at the Crystal and it was like, this is probably why our fans are way more personally involved, more like personally attached, because it was such an intimate exploration of pain so many of us know and have experienced. But like I said, when someone can pluck the fear out of your head and show it to you, or give it to you, you do the same thing with love and forgiveness, grace, things that we have all felt and experienced, a lot of us have experienced, but to have it presented so honestly and not histrionically, it was like very subtle and devastating. What was the weirdness that happened the first night? I was there.
The drunk woman in the back got up and yelled at the stage, and then a riot.
Oh, that's right. I wasn't there that night.
You were there.
I was there on night 2. Yeah, the first night, the woman was like something. Was she like anti-abortion or?
No, it was way weirder than that. I went because the show was scripted-ish, but then I went off on tangents, and I sort of went off on a tangent that night about. I tell a story in the second act about having compassion for the guy who sexually abused me when I was 14.
Right.
And this woman, and forgiveness, and how he sent me a kind of an amends letter and stuff. And this woman in the back stands up and says, "Amanda Palmer, compassion for our rapists." And all these women started, everyone in the audience, everyone just started yelling at her to shut up, yelling at me because they agreed with her, yelling at the people who were yelling. It was like I'd never seen anything like this at a show ever. It was insane. And then I remember coming home and telling you that story over breakfast, and you were like, "Oh, fucking beat your butt."
I know. It's like, I'm coming with a bat. Shut up. Because sometimes, you know what? Someone might actually have that grievance and might actually trigger someone to act that way. But more often than not, and you've experienced this, they're just trying to make the show about them. They're trying
I think everyone had been drinking. It was Friday night at the Crystal Ballroom. At that point, It was 11 o'clock. Like, people, there's a skeleton.
Crazy.
So, but also, I told that story to a lot of people that week. And I remember something that one person said to me that really stuck with me. And I don't remember if you and I talked about this, but someone was like, "Well, of course, Amanda, that's like, you're the one that she can bring that to because you're mom."
Yeah.
Because this is the safe place where she can say it. And you and Ani and like the women who get up there and create the space where you talk about rape and you talk about abortion and you talk about, like, that's also unfortunately the space where, hold on, I'm tilting, where people will, like, they're just going to bring you all their shit because they can, because they know it's safe, because they know you're not going to be like, "Fuck you." Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I didn't say anything. I sort of stood up there, watched everyone yell, literally put my mic in its holder, sat down at the piano, and like
let it explode.
Let it explode for like 45 seconds, and then grabbed my mic and was like, "You guys, we're not going to fix this tonight. Let me finish the show."
Yeah.
And for the rest of the show, if you have something that you want to say to me, I want to hear it, but raise your hand.
Yeah. Oh, that's right.
But also, like, if we're going to talk about patronage and Patreon, which was the plan for this live.
Yeah.
It starts with, what is the connection and the relationship that you have with some people. That's what it starts with. And this is the thing that like really trips a lot of musicians up, audiences up, like journalists who are like, so explain this to me again. And I'm like, there is a thing that is hard to explain, but it's so goddamn simple to me that I feel like the failing and my inability to explain it is mine. But a Patreon, like a sustainable crowdfunding relationship between an artist, us, and a bunch of people watching, the community, the audience, isn't about the normal shit that we were all taught. Speaking of 70s, 80s, 90s, like we were taught one fucking way, especially as women. We were taught, do the thing, look the right way, get up, impress everybody, like be really impressive. Whether you're like sweet, soft, vulnerable, impressive, or you're like Joan Jett impressive, or you're Madonna impressive, you've got to be flawless and impressive, and you've got to show up and be larger than life. And you've got to look like a star and like aim up there, aim for Madonna level, Prince level, Michael Jackson level stardom. And if you act as if, you might convince enough people that you're a superstar, and then you'll be handed some weird ass golden ticket that will like fly you to the moon.
The make it
famous.
Yeah, the make it ticket. Yeah, no, there's no making it.
You actually said something really intriguing at the beginning of this live, which is you said, I wasn't famous, but I was successful.
Right.
And I thought, like, that says it all in a nutshell. Like, our idea of success,
right,
which means like a successful life maybe, or a sustainable career maybe, is somehow unintegrated with the idea of famousness. Like the fact that you separated those things really fascinates me, because I don't feel famous either, but I feel really successful. And most days I wake up and I'm glad I'm not famous, whatever famous means, right? Like when you hear famous, you think like Kardashians. You know,
it's changed. I mean, the whole thing has sort of changed from like someone who's at the top of their game, who's like mastered, like they're rock stars who've been working and slogging and whatever, and they're famous because they put in the time and they wrote a hit song, or maybe it was just luck of the draw. Now when like people, you ask some kids, I'm like, well, what do you want to do? Well, they're like, well, I just want to be famous. Well, doing what? I don't know. I'm just going to be famous. I'm like, you know, Jeffrey Dahmer's famous. Hitler's famous. You know, what do you want to be famous for? You want to do something cool, or you want to just be a douchebag who blows like cigarette smoke rings with your butthole? I mean, I'm sure you could, and that'd be great. You'd be all over the internet, and everyone would be like, "Oh my God, the butthole guy! Is that the butthole guy?"
That's hard to do.
I know.
That's hard to do.
Oh, I know.
Got to put in your 10,000 hours to do that.
Right. First girl I slept with showed me that she could smoke a cigarette with her pussy. I never slept with her again. It was really, really upsetting. I was like, oh man, oh, that's really gross, because it wasn't cool. It was it was disgusting. It was awful.
Yeah. That's the sort of thing I'd only want to hear about and wouldn't want to watch.
No, you don't. It was awful. It was sad and it was awful. She's like, you want to see what I learned in France? I'm like, you've never been to France. And then she put a cigarette, she pulled over her underpants and put a cigarette in her pussy, and I was like, wait. And then I see her little stomach sucking in. I hear this, and the smoke comes out, and I'm like, that's literally not, that's like, that's,
and it's not,
that's the opposite.
And my brain is spinning off into that world where like nowadays when I make out with someone who's got cigarette breath, I kind of like it in that way that I did when I was 15, where I'm like, ooh, like,
ooh, you're bad.
Cigarette breath. But the idea of cigarette vagina taste is like,
no,
I don't have anything good to associate it with.
No, it's muy malo. No cigarettes in the pussy. It's bad. I think that's just, we can all agree.
Now that we've cleared that up, somebody in the comments.
You're welcome, internet.
Please try and create a string of emojis that says in emoji, don't smoke cigarettes with your vagina. Winner to whoever can create that in emoji in the comments. Go. I can't wait to see what you come up with.
Oh my
you
God.
can use text images too. This is your yoni.
Oh, okay.
I see
parentheses.
Parentheses. multiple parentheses if you've got a vulva like mine, which is like 9 of them. There's a gaping expanse
stop.
of vagina. I've got a
I
big
mean,
vagina.
you know my song 8 Miles Wide. My boyfriend was
I
like,
do.
do you want
It's
me to
great.
answer any questions? I was like, maybe, because everyone asks if my vagina is actually 8 miles wide. He's like, no, definitely not.
So back to Patreon.
Okay.
The point, and I've been thinking about this a fuck ton. I mean, obviously, I thought about this stuff a lot when I was writing my book, because I had done this massive Kickstarter, and everyone in the world was like, how'd you do that? And I was like, well, let me explain my community to you.
Mm-hmm.
That's why. It isn't like I figured out some magical trick.
Right.
And everyone was like, no, but there must be a magical trick. Like, will you tell us? And I was like, I'm sorry, there's not a magical trick. The magical trick is I toured for 10 years and met literally everyone at the shows.
Yeah.
And had all these human exchanges where I cared about people and I tried to make them care about me. And when you do that for enough years and then you go, hey, I need help, those people are like, oh yeah, I'll help you. I remember meeting you and I really liked you and I love your art and I can't wait to see what you make.
Right.
And so my Patreon has gone through a really interesting journey in itself in the last year in the pandemic. Because I expected, when COVID hit in March and I was supposed to go home and I didn't, and I stayed here, I like braced myself for the worst. And my team, we all braced ourselves. And I was like, I've got, I had 15,000 plus patrons. And I was like, we got to get ready because this might disappear. We might turn around in 3 months and I've got 3,000 patrons. And that's not enough to pay everyone's salaries. And if I'm not on tour, all that income's going away. So everyone get ready, because this is an experiment and we don't know what's going to happen. Yeah. And that didn't happen. And over the course of the last year, my Patreon hasn't gone up. It's gone down a little bit. There's about 14,000 people now, as opposed to last year's 15,000. Mm-hmm. But it's basically on par. It hasn't changed that much. And I chalk that up to the general position of most people who are on my Patreon don't think of me as someone whose job it is to deliver them a product of art or music or even blogging or here's how I am. The main reason that those 14,000 people are giving me their $1 or their $50 or whatever a month is because they want me to be okay. They want me to be able to draw a salary and pay my staff and not to have to fucking hustle every fucking minute of my life, because hustling is exhausting and it leaves less time for making art. Mm-hmm. And they want to hear what I have to say next. And that might mean that I say something in a month, or I say something in 6 months, or I say something in 2 months. And especially now I'm living in a pandemic and I've got a kid and I'm a solo mom, and they're all like, oh yeah, we're human beings.
But you've been really... For everything that's been going on and how discombobulated the world is, and how separated you are from your home and everything, and all of the extenuating circumstances around your personal life right now, you've still been a fantastic source of all the things. Like, you come up with stuff, and you're so intimately involved in your process, and everybody is a part of it, but you're not a salesman. That's the thing about you that I think comes across more, is you create all this stuff, but you're not a barker. When we are on tour, that's automatic barking, like carnival barking, like, hey, come and see the show. But that I've noticed in your Patreon, it's just sort of like hearing from a friend. It's like, you're like, oh my God, Santa Claus wrote me back. You know what I mean? You're a giver. Well, you're a giver of things.
People like me and you have spent our fucking whole careers figuring out how to be part artist and part salesperson. Because you fucking have to.
You have to. You have to hustle. It's a fucking hustle.
And say, I wrote a book. You have to go out to the world and say, come to my show. Please just buy a ticket. It's really good, I swear. And there's so much shame wrapped up in that, especially because we never, ever, ever saw Madonna or Michael Jackson or Prince staring at us through a screen saying, hey, come to my show. It's really good. They
had the machine.
They had walls of machine to do that for them and to prop them up with their names and lights saying like, oh my God, the Madonna show, you've got to come. Like everyone had their own personal fantasy castle built around their inner sanctum. And they never had to pitch. And part of what's poisoned our culture is that artists aren't supposed to be salespeople because it's a bad look.
Right. Yeah.
And part of
that's what you and I get the most shit about that. Like, oh, they think they're so important. It's like, no, we just need to get people to the fucking
come
gig.
to our show.
You need to come to the show. I gotta fucking feed the band.
Right. And so a lot of my book was about like punching back against that narrative.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole point of the art of asking is like, I'm allowed to ask. I'm allowed to ask you to support me. I'm allowed to ask you to come to my show.
Right.
I'm even allowed to say, guess what? I don't have any time right now to make any music. I'm raising a kid alone in a pandemic, and I'm still going to fucking ask you, help me out. I've been writing songs for 25 years that you've loved. Will you give me a fucking dollar this month so that I don't have to stress and hustle? And I'm allowed to ask you. And when people are like, oh, wow, and you put it that way, totally, Amanda. I'm here for you. I'll help you out. And then I back up and I go, thank you. But like, that is so against the law of rock and roll, the way we're taught.
We're supposed to be above it all.
Against the rules, which is why anytime I go out and do it, people are like, Amanda, you're not allowed to do that. That's against the rules of rock and roll and stardom. And I'm like, sorry. I'm making up a new set of rules over here.
Right.
You know?
And you got us, and you've got this beautiful kind of secret fan club. It's not a secret, but it's like, it's not a vampiric one-sided relationship. People are they're getting what they want from their artists. You know, because we all go out after our shows and we meet people and we hug people, we do selfies, we dry tears, we hear stories, we sign shit, we go and drink with them, and it's a symbiotic relationship.
I just saw that Rizzo and Skip are both watching this live.
Rizzo's
here. They just commented
right now.
So speaking of Patreon, Rizzo also just joined Patreon, and so did Skip, and they're all like, when we're talking about this shit, I'm talking to fucking you guys. I'm not just talking to the people who might join our Patreons. I'm talking to the artists who need to be constantly reminded that we don't have to follow the rules of the system. We're allowed to make up our own rules of reciprocity and asking, and what fair exchange means to me and you, and fuck everybody else. Like, fuck what anyone says.
Because all we've ever seen as women, as artists, as people trying to make their own way, all we've ever come up against are walls. And so finally we're just like, oh, look, it's a door now. And then people come flooding through the door behind us. And that's all good. We innovate, and that's fucking great. I've been having an emotional sort of like, because I haven't joined Patreon yet. I wanted to do it, but I was thinking about how would I divvy up the tier system. I'm kind of like, I want to be like, just pay what you want. Just pay what you want. Everybody gets, I just show up the same for everybody. Is that totally cool?
Yes. That's more. So one of the big things, if you want to get like nerdy, which is good, let's get nerdy for a second. And this is actually, I wrote, I'm so glad Skip is watching. So I wrote about Skip's Kickstarter in my book because Skip did this sort of amazing flat offer when he put out one of his Kickstarters years ago. This would have been like 2010, I think. And Skip knew his audience, and he knew that he just had like a community of people who fucking loved his music, his composing, his performances. They loved coming to Skip's Hour of Charm, which was this beautiful night that he put on in New York. And he just knew he had people out there who were gonna help. Mm-hmm. The way you've got people out there and they're just like, I'm in, tell me what to do.
Yeah.
And he knew the way I know, the way you probably subconsciously or consciously know. You've got people who can only afford $1, and that's all they'll ever be able to afford because they're fucking broke, but they love you. And then you've got your super high rolling people who are like, I happen to be rich. I happen to love Storm. If you ask me for $500, I kind of don't care what you're offering. I'll just give it to you because I have the means and I love your work and I want to support you as much as I can. So thanks for asking. Here's $500. There's not that many of those people, but they might be out there, right?
Right. But that's the thing. If someone can only afford $1, I don't want to be like, well, you won't be able to see this content. I'm like, all content.
Which is basically what I do on Patreon. So Skip did this Kickstarter and he was like, you know, for $5 or whatever, you get the record. And then he was like, for $50, you get the record and like something awesome. And for $500, you will get the record and like something else that's awesome. I will blow your mind. And for $5,000, I will fucking, your brain will explode because I'll surprise you with something. And what was like, he just didn't promise anything. He basically was just like loaded with enthusiasm for his fucking record. And then the obvious happened. And what the obvious was is that people who could afford the $5 gave the $5. People who could afford the 50 gave the 50. People who could afford the $5,000 gave the $5,000 or whatever it was. I'm making up the numbers, but you get it. And the point is, people don't want meaningless tokens of gratitude. They want you to be okay and to make your art and to be able to contribute at the level that they're able. Like, it's not a fan club. It's not a walled garden where like you buy access to me. It's like, give me what you can afford. And then what I do with my patrons is like the super high rollers. Some of them might even be watching. The people who give $75, $100, $250 a month. I send them occasional tokens of gratitude. And I'm like, I know you don't need this. You're rich, but I fucking love you. Once a year, I'm going to sit down. I'm going to write a postcard actually telling you and reminding you how much I fucking appreciate all you've done. But you don't need to get like a truckload of merchandise. You don't need a signed poster every month. You don't need that kind of crap. And we all know it. Like, let's not pretend. You do not need a signed butt print every month to give your life.
I do.
Well, once in a while.
Okay.
But the point is, like, one of the things that Kickstarter taught us all is that the essence of it isn't the crap and the I'll sign 90 things and send them out.
Like, all the like trappings of trappings of access.
And also, what a lot of artists learned is that wastes the energy and the time of your life. And your life, for these people who are trying to support you, your life is not supposed to be spent in the fucking post office.
Right.
Your life is supposed to be spent playing your piano, emoting your emotions, singing your songs, sitting around and trying to figure out how to be a good performer, a good entertainer. Not just stuck in the post office all day, like sending out signed butt print after signed butt print. Yeah. And I feel like we learned that as a collective music community because it was like, oh my God, Kickstarter, awesome, we'll take control. But then there was sort of a trend of like, wait, I just spent the whole year in the post office and in meetings and like apologizing for a package that didn't come. Sorry. So many artists got so burned out. And also a lot of artists just didn't deliver. Yeah. So a lot of audiences were like, hey, I ordered a vinyl and a butt print like 2 years ago. When am I going to get my vinyl and my butt print? Dear artist, like I gave you $50 and that artist at that point is so scared to write back. Right. That they just like hid and vanished. And that really poisoned the well for a lot of general trust in the crowdfunding system. Because people were like, I don't know, I sent $50 to artist X and I was supposed to get a butt print and a vinyl, but I never fucking got it. And she never apologized for not sending it. So fuck that. Yeah. And that's why Patreon, I feel like philosophically people need to think about it differently. Artists need to think about it differently and the audience needs to think about it differently, which is like, you're not buying Storm Large's time and attention. You're giving her a salary so that she doesn't have to waste her life hustling. Think about it that way. Yeah. And so I can come up with some shit. And give her what you can afford expecting very little back except Storm's happiness and ability to produce what she needs to produce. That's the exchange.
And
That's the
I
deal.
think the one thing that this pandemic has shown me, and we talked a little bit about it, I am so externally motivated as an artist. Like when we were writing our books, I fucking hated it because you're alone and you're not getting the stimulation and you're not getting the reaction to the story or to the song or to whatever. You're not getting that electricity. You're sort of have to self-generate. And I had a contract and a deadline, and so that helped. But the thing with this lockdown has been, well, what am I going to fucking do? Everyone's like, well, I'm learning to make sourdough. I'm like, I want to write music, but I just don't have any, I have no inspiration other than fear and like rage and disbelief. But then I just start to retreat more and more. But if there was an external motivator, people like, hey, we support you, we fucking love you. And I'm like, I want to reward that. I want to be like, yeah, fucking thanks. What do you want? I'll make a video. Yeah. So I was thinking of different things. I was like, what could I offer people? And I cook, so I could do like Cooking with Storm, and we could do Ask Me Anything Mondays. And then once a month, do a drawing of patrons' names and say, what, I'm going to write you, I'm going to do a drawing. And if it's you, I want you to tell me what kind of song you want me to write. Do you want me to write a song about you, about your cat, about your daughter, about your parents, about life? And write me a paragraph, and it includes, you know, all the details of the song, how you want it to sound, how you want it to feel. And I was like, that would be a really good creative exercise.
So when I was 2 years into Patreon, I did my first exercise going to the patrons and saying, I was really forthcoming about it. I was like, I'm behind on some projects. I don't have anything to put out for August. I just need to write a song right now because I need something to put out because I don't have anything that I can pull out of my ass, and it's almost the end of August. And so I just was like, post me comments. I'm writing a song tomorrow. I'm recording it the next day. That's going to be our thing of the month. And it was so inspiring.
Nice.
To have a deadline. And like,
yes.
I call it the art gun to the head. It was so inspiring to have an art gun to the head. And that song was Drowning in the Sound, which went on the record. And then I kept doing it again and again, but I did it, you know, I felt like there wouldn't be a magic to it if I was like, I'm going to do this every Monday, or I'm going to do this at the end of every month. I was like, I don't know where I'm going to be. I don't know what my schedule's going to be like. I can't do that when I'm touring. So I'm like, I'll just do it when I want. And it really is like, it has changed the way I've thought about making art, because when it's on your time and schedule, it feels different. And then there's like a crowd there ready to catch what you've got to offer. So if I were going to be nerdy and advise you, I would be really careful not to promise anything regular, because you don't know what's going to happen to you 16 Mondays from now. Right. And you don't want to be constantly stressing and apologizing for having promised something that you can't necessarily deliver because your life changes. Right. So what I have found works best on Patreon is a lot like what I learned from Skip, which is join my Patreon at the level that you can afford and all be awesome. Deal? And maybe I will like write a song about your life and I'll send out a blog where you write shit and it inspires me, or I cast out and I put out a Google Doc link and I say, I'm going to take one of your stories about your parents dying or your rape or your abortion this month and I'm going to make it into music. But I'm not promising that because I don't fucking know, and it might all change. And I might do a podcast, and I might write an essay, and I might teach you to cook. I might do a lot of shit, but I promise I'll be awesome. And also, you know, if I fucking break my leg and get cancer, I might not do fuck all for 14 months. Will you still help me? And everyone's like, whoa.
You know what it sounds like?
Yeah.
It sounds like falling in love.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm gonna, you know what?
Love.
It's like falling in love. It's like, okay, so this is who I am. and I don't know what our alchemy is going to be, but I like these things and I can do these things. I have these abilities and these capabilities. What do you bring to me, and what do you want from me? Because I've got everything. I got whatever you want.
So I want to pause the conversation, but keep it also on target. One of the things that I want to say right now is looking at the comments in this Instagram reminds me of something really important to point out about Patreon. So since I started the podcast, I've been doing these lives with my podcast guests because a lot of the interviews are like a year old. And it was important for me to follow up with everyone and be like, we had this amazing conversation a year ago, 14 months ago, whatever. But like, what about right now? Where are you? How's your lockdown? How's your life? What do we need to discuss right now? And I think I've done about, I don't know, 6 or 7 follow-up conversations, starting with Elizabeth Lesser and going through, all these people. And I've done them on Crowdcast for patrons only. And they're usually attended by about 100 people because the time zone's weird. I'm in New Zealand, but still, it's like a great intimate conversation with 100 people. And people ask questions, and it's really intimate, and it's a good family community vibe. This is the first time since doing these lives that I've come to Instagram and done a public conversation instead of just a private conversation that's only available to my patrons.
Okay.
And I've already seen in the comments down here a ton of spam, and also a couple of people saying, man, I really miss it over on the Crowdcast where all of the comments are intelligent comments and people know each other, and it's a much more like grown up environment and grown up conversation. Like there's a person here who just keeps cutting and
doing middle fingers.
And the
Bastille 216. Yeah, it's probably maybe a bot, but you know what? We see you. Hi, we see you. I hope you feel better.
So one of the reasons I did this on Instagram was as sort of as an experiment, and also because it's just easier to set up and stuff, but also like as a reminder, experiment / reminder / like whatever conversation around the difference between being on the public internet and being behind a very, very low paywall. Because I used to be like, fuck all paywalls. The internet is free. Everything should be free. And now that things have changed, and now that there's like, we live in the world of Spotify, I think that and we live in the world of fake news and Facebook algorithms and punishing social media. There's a lot to be said for a very low walled garden. You can join my Patreon for a fucking $1, join a live cast, and then leave and not even pay that $1 if I haven't charged for that cast, which I don't. And just making people jump that like teeny little hurdle of $1 cleans out so much of the toxic trash of the internet. And this is like a 180 for me, because if you had asked me 8 years ago, like, will I ever paywall anything? I was like, no. I was like staunchly anti-paywall, because I was like, everything should be free. The internet should be this big open democracy. But that was before extreme bots. That was before someone would come on your Instagram live and just literally cut and paste middle fingers.
They just want to be seen. It's like, that's so sad. If it's not a bot, if it's not a fake person, it's like, wow, what happened that you're going to spend all this energy? It's like, oh, because we're talking about them, and it's like,
you sweetie,
it's okay. Yes, we saw
you. We see you, and we love you. And
we see you, dude.
We're hugging you.
We see you. We'll send you a signed butt
all
print.
Your middle fingers.
We'll send you signed butt
so basically, one of the things I want to throw out to you, and this is a little like show and tell in real time. I went to my Patreon a couple days ago, and I said, we're not going to do the live on Crowdcast. We're going to do it on Instagram. But do you have questions for Storm? Send them to me. I will ask her. So while you serenade people, I am going to take the next 2 minutes, and I'm going to read you the top couple of questions. So let me go get my pooter.
All right, I'll sing.
Let's do a couple questions, and then let's keep talking about Patreon.
Okay. of my life. I've never fit, but I won't complain and I won't quit because I am enormous. Get used to it. Yeah, man, everyone tells me I'm too much. Maybe it's just you're not enough for me. Oh, can't you see? I'm the kind of woman I'm supposed to be. Did I mention that my vagina is 8 miles wide? Absolutely everyone can come inside. If you're ever frightened, just run and hide. My vagina, it's 8 miles wide. Tell me, what is womanly to you? She should be strong, but not too much of a brute, because it's really cool if she's powerful, but way better if she's just cute. Yeah, well, for all of us girls who don't fit in, I say go Amazonian. You can be kick-ass bruiser and be feminine. I go and tell everybody my vagina is 8 miles wide. Absolutely everyone can come inside. If you're ever frightened, just run and hide. My vagina is 8 miles wide. Now, I am not loose, and I'm not a whore, technically. It's a metaphor for my super vagantastically mystical feminine goddess Corin. Oh, I hate it when women make that noise, that we don't need daddies, men or boys. Even my hardcore girls, they love cock-shaped sex toys. Oh, my vagina, it's universal. It's just like a penis, but reversible. Come on in, man. The water's fine. It's not my vagina. It's our vagina. Come on. My vagina is 8 miles wide. Oh, come on. Yeah. Echo, echo, echo. Whoa, 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 whoa. Yeah. Hello. Gigantic, a big, long, gigantic, oh, big, love. That's right. Give me the fuzzies. All right. So
I love you.
I love you. You look like you're happier now.
I am.
A little bit. Good.
I could listen to you sing about your vagina all day. So, are you gonna start a Patreon?
Yes.
And am I gonna help you do it?
Yeah, that'd be great. It seems like when I go to become a patron, it seems, very user friendly and very like dipshit proof.
Yeah,
Dipshit.
It's pretty simple.
Yeah. So
there are a lot of things to think about though, and I will give you nerdy Patreon lessons before you start it up, because there's certain things that are hard to undo.
Okay.
If you don't think about them at the beginning. There's a lot of stuff you can change later, but then there's certain stuff where it's like you've got to like get it right the first time, because there's stuff you got to think through, mostly about like whether you want to do think per thing or per month.
Okay.
And then also where you want to set your levels and
Okay.
what you're promising.
Right.
I will tell you the motto over at Team AFP is under promise and over deliver.
There you go. That's great. Yeah. Just like life. Hope for the best, but be honest about the worst.
And someone's asking in the comments I would pay for that. Maybe I can use you as a guinea pig and we could do like a video where we just like, we have the conversation, but we record it and then I can
Right, we
share
record it while you're talking me through Patreon right before I launch it.
Totes my goats.
All right, so is it like date specific? Should I pick a auspicious date?
I wouldn't launch right after Christmas.
No,
I
but
would
like,
wait.
yeah, I think I'll wait after whatever the inauguration ends up being,
Yes.
because I think everyone's going to be a bit distracted.
Well, it's such a long, it's hard to, if you're like us, you're used to thinking of a launch being like a launch.
Right.
And since this is more like, you've got to think of it more like an opening night of a restaurant. Like, it's important, but it's not that important.
Yeah.
Because what's important is that like the food be good, the service be good, the kitchen not have rats in it, and that like people keep coming back to the restaurant,
right.
and like the business works. It doesn't matter if your launch party is good or bad. What's important is that the place be good, and that's way more important than when you launch, how you launch. Like,
right.
It's a long game.
Okay,
It's
so
not a one-time thing.
Then after we're done with the Instagram live, we'll figure out a date when we can make a video of you basically tutoring me, a Luddite, like super Luddite dipshit with computers and stuff. That would be really, I think that'd be really helpful for a lot of people.
I have given like 10 Patreon lessons to artists who barely use their computers. And I literally will sit there with our laptops open and be like, okay, this. But it's also important to remind people watching, like, artists need to know how to use it, but also like, you're our audience. The audience needs to know how to use it too. Like, the community aspect of it is just important, that like the community be empowered to know, like, how do you use Patreon? How do you budget?
Yeah.
You know, do you support 100 artists for $1, or do you want to support 10 artists for $10? Those are like actually important decisions to make in your life if this is the system we're going to be using, instead of you're wandering over to Amazon and spending $10 on a record. Like, we'd so much prefer you not wander over to Amazon or iTunes and spend $10 on a record. And also, like, be educated. If you've listened to a ton of Storm's shit on Spotify but never thought about giving her money, think about it. Think about it. Think about all the money she's never made if you've been listening to her shit on Spotify for 5 years.
Yeah.
For free.
Right.
You know?
Well, and it's that's where I run into this weird emotional, not a block, but, you know, people like, how did you get to where you are? And I was like, well, you got to eat shit for like 10 years at least. But my advice to a lot of people, you know, because I've had people say, oh, wow, you shouldn't do anything for free. And I was like, no, actually, when I was starting out, I did tons, and I still do tons of charity stuff, because you don't get paid, but you have an audience, and they're usually people with money there. You're doing something for a good cause. You're practicing your skills, and there's catering. So you fucking grab the wine and it'll be finished. You bring Tupperware. There's cookies and shit, and you just feed everybody.
Yeah.
Win. It's a great. Do a lot of charity stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, even not charity, like in the early days of the Dresden Dolls, we would just take any gig.
Yeah, any gig. Just fucking do
gig.
it. Get your calluses right.
And if we had demanded money, we would have just been laughed at.
Exactly.
We had no draw. We were like, we get to play in front of people. Awesome.
It comes with beer and pizza? What?
Yeah. Well, and even if there wasn't fucking beer and pizza, if it was like, come play our house party, but you have to bring beer, but you'll get to play in front of people, we were like, yeah, we get to play in front of people.
You're officially a better person than me. I'm like, no pizza, suck my dick. This bitch don't play without beer. Sorry.
That just means that my ego was hungrier than yours.
Maybe. That's a very nice way to put it. Or I'm
all right, I got questions for you, and then we gotta go.
Yes.
All right. So this is from Damien, my best question asker on the Crowdcast usually. And one of my favorite patrons. You both briefly touched about being driven to perform in part to avoid loneliness. The current cultural moment is marked by ever increasing feelings of loneliness. It's unlikely that we can all be rock stars. How else do you combat loneliness and cultivate connection with others in your lives?
It sounds really cheesy, but in this pandemic, in this lockdown, I felt invisible. Like, I don't have a husband, I don't have children, I don't even have a dog because I'm gone all the time. So I was lonelier than I've ever been. So the basic to sort of get myself to a place of functioning is gratitude, and writing notes to yourself and about who do you love, what are you looking forward to. The things you're afraid of might be real, but there's also a lot of beautiful things that are also real. So gratitude, reaching out to friends and family. There are other people who have it way worse. Reach out to them. Reach out to the people in the hospitals, the people who work in the hospitals. Reach out to the protesters. Reach out to your single mom friends. Reach out, make sure they're okay, and just be like, yeah, this is fucking hard. I'm having a hard time, but I'm lucky. I have a place to live that's safe. I have whiskey and chocolate. I'm way ahead. So it's so easy to spiral because all we see is evidence of negativity and fear. And
what were your pajama parties? Someone just commented about your pajama parties.
I was doing these sort of to cheer myself up and to sort of be available to fans. I was doing these I'm calling them pajama sessions. And so I just put on a robe, throw on my glasses, turn on the fire early on, and get a glass of wine or a whiskey or whatever. I'd be like, how is everybody feeling? What are you doing? I'd play a couple songs, I'd answer some questions. But then after, the protests really erupted after George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and everyone was just like, fuck this. Finally, we gotta fucking do something. And now we have eyeballs on every computer. Nobody can get distracted by life. We have the attention. We have to get everybody on board with this. I stopped playing because I was like, and I'm good friends with one of our city commissioners here in Portland. And I was helping a friend of mine. I drove cross country to help a friend of mine deal with her father had died and they had to sell the house. It was a long story, but drove cross country to help her. And I was on the East Coast, and there was just nasty, like incredible violence, incredible fear, incredible sadness going on in Portland in the streets. And the commissioners were like, maybe you could come back and do like sing something, and because I've seen you like make peace in these crazy times. And I honestly was like, no one needs to hear from a white lady right now. I'm sorry, I love you so much. And my friend who's a city commissioner is Black, and she's like, you're not a white lady, you're my friend. And I go, I'm a white lady, dude. There's no reason for any white ladies to be talking about anything right now. And I didn't perform online because I was like, I was gutted and I didn't feel entertaining. I just was getting on and I was crying, and I was like, okay, this isn't helping anyone. And if I do anything creative, it has to be helpful in some way or of service in some way. So yeah, I stopped, but I'll probably come back to it. I feel like there's going to be some stuff to celebrate soon.
I hope so.
There will, honey. There will. It can always get worse. I always hush people when they're like, how much worse could it get? I'm like, thanks, douche. It can get worse.
Yeah.
So of course it can get worse, and we're also fatigued from this whole thing. There's this term, a psychological term called allostatic load, which is interesting. It's in the same family as PTSD. So it's based in reality. It's not like exhaustion from being afraid of something that won't happen, like being a hypochondriac or being just like unnaturally afraid of getting in a car accident. We're all collectively worried about something real, about a lot of things that are real. And so we're all collectively exhausted. We're tapped. And it's a real thing. And it's not just what we're afraid of. We're picking up what other people are afraid of because, you know, our electricity as human beings, as living sentient, living beings, we are all picking up on each other's pain.
Yes.
In a way which is reinforcing of the fact that we're all connected, but we're all connected in an intense, hard way right now. Allostatic load, really interesting phrase, but yeah.
Someone also just commented the cumulative load of stress. And I have my own story over here, obviously having dealt with like solo momming in a pandemic, and that story, even though we haven't had COVID here. And then my single mom friends in the States, different load, but still cumulative.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my friends with new babies in New York, hard to even wrap your brain around. But also, like, there was a different kind of feeling 8 months ago when it was like, oh my God, this big, insane, sort of like, terrible word to use, but appropriate word, this kind of like sexy romantic problem that we're all dealing with, and like, we're gonna fucking get through it.
It's
But,
global.
Like, it's global. And then like the exhaustion of like more loneliness, more pain, more problems. And, you know, we've just got to deal with the problems that are right in front of us. Like, that's the thing that I've noticed being out here is like, sort of like grief. I don't know how I'm going to feel next week. What I see on paper is not what winds up happening in this heart. Also, like, we're hormonal.
Right.
You know, I got my period a couple of days ago. I felt like shit for 2 days. I was like, God, nothing new bad has happened. Why am I feeling like shit? Oh, right.
Isn't that funny? We're old and we've been bleeding forever. And it's like, what is going on? What is going on? We always forget. Oh, estrogen, you fucker.
So that was a great question. And Damien, if you're watching either live or in the replay, thank you for that. Here's another good one. Same asker. He asked a bunch of a bunch of great questions. I love this. I love this for you, especially.
Uh-oh.
In the context of finding one's voice, you talked about the importance of being yourself, not letting someone pigeonhole you. Can you talk about the challenges of being authentic in a way that finds enough of an audience to make success sustainable and evolving in an authentic way that brings your audience along? And what a great fucking question also. When you're talking about Patreon, like, my answer to that, and I'll throw it over to you, Storm, but like, I have had to totally change my inner mechanics just in terms of how, like, you know, when I look at my own image, and I mean that literally and figuratively, but I'm like, okay, I'm Amanda Palmer. I'm this musician. I've done some stuff. Some people like me. I can make a living doing this. What do I think people are seeing? And what do I need them to see? And literally from the moment that you're like taking a selfie and putting your hair up and going like, I'm going to take a photograph of myself or send out an image of myself or type words about myself. What am I doing? Like, how much of this is a performance, and how much of it is real? And if it's all real, what is it that I'm trying to make for people? What is it that I want them to see that's going to make them feel better, that's going to make me feel better, that's maybe going to make us feel better? And having a Patreon has been really confrontational because I've had to accept not just what I'm confused about now, but how much of my life has been image conscious.
Yeah.
And like, I have to win people over. They have to like me. I want to attract them. I need to be like crazy, charismatic Amanda Palmer with just the right combination of I'm a little bit crazy and I'm a little bit nuts and I'm a little bit outspoken and I'm totally unapologetic, but still like, come talk to me. Be like, pat me on the head, like me. like my songs, buy my thing. I still have to pay the rent. And like the hustle, like when I think about it, it's the best word for it. Like the fucking hustle
Yeah.
that I've been on for 20 years to try to be a real artist, but also drag everyone into the boat and be like, come this way, come
Yeah.
into the show, like come into the circus tent. It's great in here. We have wine. And the Patreon, it is a lot. You said it. It's a lot like love and our fear when someone's like, when someone looked you in the eye for the first time and was like, Storm, you don't have to do that for me.
Yeah.
Like, I'll just love you.
Yeah.
You can stop trying to do all these things to make me love you. I'll just love you. Like, you can look like shit. You can fart in front of me. You can just be yourself.
No,
that's
I can't.
That's why I love you. And it can be really hard to hear that.
Yeah.
It can be really hard to turn off the performer that's like, I will make you love me. Like you will love me.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with an audience of people. When enough people are like, Amanda, you're allowed to stop. Like we actually do just love you. And in the case of the Patreon, our love is going to be in the form of, you've got my $3, whether or not you make some magical thing this month. Like, we'll just love you. We'll just love you. It's okay. Like, you can sit there and cry for a couple of months and hold your child, and we got you. Like, we got your back. Stop trying so hard. You're actually deafening us lately. Like, just slow down. We can see that you're struggling. And I'm like, I know, I'm sorry. It's so unlike what we were brought up to understand a performer and an entertainer to be.
Yeah.
Like always on and then off, and when you're off, hide.
Yeah. I mean, a personal side note, my boyfriend really, really early on was like, I hope you know how to not be on. I love you. I love that you perform. I love you do that stuff, but I really just want this. And to get into the like, to not to oversimplify, but Damien's question, which is so good. Everybody wants to be seen. And the thing is, our job is to be seen, but the audience also wants to be seen, and they want to see themselves in you. And artists, like the audience, are fucking just tubes of meat, like trying to figure the shit out. Only we just do it under hot lights and electricity, and we're amplified, and we're trying to make sense of it. And everyone in the crowd is like, oh my God, I hope she fucking makes sense of it, because then I'll make sense of it. You know, so there's a symbiotic relationship there. And in terms of finding my voice, I wasn't like, you know, people would say, well, you know, you need to be skinny, you need to be prettier, you need to have, you know, you need to change your hair, you need to not be you swear too much, you're kind of like a dude. And, you know, I wasn't like, fuck you, man, I'll show you. I was like, oh, well, I guess I'll never make it. But I've already got a toehold in the fence out of my head. I'm going to get over this fucking fence, and I'm going to run and run and run and never fucking look back, because I built part of this fence. I built this sort of trap around myself where I'm a piece of shit and I'm unworthy of love and I'm whatever. But I got a toehold in the chain link of the fence, and there's razor wire up there, but I got the fuck over it, because there was someone, the first couple of times I performed on stage singing, that was totally moved. A lot of people were like, boo, we're waiting for the fucking headliner. Boo, who are you? You fat fuck, fuck you, whatever, you're not hot, fuck off, what are you doing? Somebody was like, that just rewired something. And they didn't say anything to me, but I felt it. It was palpable. And I was like, I don't know what this is, but I'm going to keep doing it. And I got one step higher up the fence to get out. And it wasn't, I'd love it to be some cool, like, no, I'm an artist and I'm going to I know who I am and I know who I'm not, and I'm fuck you, what do you know? I was just like sad. I was like, wow, I guess I'm never going to be a success, but at least I'm going to do what I know I'm fucking meant to do. And I'm honestly the shittiest liar. I can't lie. I can't do it. I'm awful at it. So the authenticity is just sort of like I guess, a side.
It's a built-in feature of your mainframe.
It's a side dish to my giant cheesy self. It's just like I am what I am, and I've been told forever that I'm not really, you know, cool or pretty or worth much or whatever. So I'm like, well, cool. Well, that just totally lowers the bar for my existence. But man, it's nothing but good. No way to go but up. So fuck you. Awesome. But I still, you know, I found my voice because I needed to. I was going to just be someone's sad story over Thanksgiving with, oh yeah, Henny's daughter, yeah, she died of an OD, she was 16, it was really sad. You know, did you ever hear her sing? No. You know what I mean? I was like, I wasn't going to be that. So I had pride. I definitely had pride. But yeah.
Man. The only thing I would say as an addendum to that is that I'm struggling with one specific thing right now, which is sort of like it's a side effect of knowing. I've seen a few people comment here that like, I actually don't take time off. Amanda, you don't take time off. And I'm about to.
Ooh.
And I'm scared.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I am like you. Like, I wanted to do a pajama party stream every fucking day of lockdown, and I couldn't because I had a teeny kid to take care of, and I was out of gas. And all I wanted was to have like the wherewithal and the time and the attention and the energy to like get on the internet every day and be like, I'm here. I'll lead you out of here. Let's drink wine. Let's sit around the virtual fucking campfire and weep. And I didn't have time to do that. And I was so angry, not about what was happening, you know, in my personal life. That was its own thing. But I was angry that I didn't get that. And I've been really like mulling over in my head, like, okay, now I'm going to have a little bit more bandwidth. I'm going to have help. You know, my partner is going to come back and help raise this child after 9 months away. And I'm like, finally, like, I'll get to, and my instinct is to like race to the crowd and like race to set up a daily pajama party and race to share my story constantly and be seen. And my deep inner instinct is, even though I'm able to tour right now, which no one else fucking is, none of my friends are, and even though my deepest instinct is like crank it up and set up a stage and do a virtual party every day, I think I'm gonna take a break for the first time in my career because I'm so fucking exhausted.
Good.
And like, I need it.
And you will suffer in your head. You will. The ghosts in your head are going to ping around and talk about what a piece of shit, lazy, phoning it in, fuck you. Oh, you're great, Amanda Palmer can take time off. I was touring and touring and touring and touring and touring. And I was telling my manager, I was like, I need to take 6 months off. I need to do something else. I need to do something creative. I need to get a dog. I need to fucking I want to walk across Spain. I want to ride a bike up Croatia. I want to learn how to be an EMT, like, so I could save lives. I want to do something.
Yeah.
And then the lockdown happened, and I was like, suddenly we all had to sit the fuck still. And I was like, I don't like this. I have to do something bad.
Yeah.
And fuck, it's 9 months now. And so now that's why I want to sort of get into Patreon, because then it'll be more motivating. But definitely I am a fan of the fucking taking a step away, for sure.
Yeah. It's time. For me, it's time. And also my staff in New York. I think all I need to say is my staff in New York. My staff are in New York. I have 2 staff, Michael and Haley, who have helped me run everything. And they're in fucking New York. They have had to deal with New York pandemic in their apartments. And I'm like, we all need to stop. And we started with gratitude and we're going to fucking end with it.
Yeah.
There is not a day that I don't wake up here in New Zealand and despite what's happened, despite my relationship stuff, having to raise a kid stuff, other emotional, relational explosion stuff, because, you know, like so much shit has happened. And it doesn't matter because every morning I wake up and I'm like, I am so fucking lucky.
Oh, yeah.
Not just lucky to be in New Zealand, but lucky that I have, you know, thousands of patrons who will pay my staff in a pandemic. I don't have to hustle. I don't have to stress. Whatever I did to karmically build up points, I'm cashing in.
Well, maybe karma, but it was fucking bone crunching work, dude.
Right. Let's not even call it karma. Let's call it whatever bone crushing work I did to let me off at this particular point right now where I can rest.
Yeah.
I fucking earned it.
You did. I
fucking worked my ass off for 20 years so that right now I didn't have to hustle and I didn't have to fire my staff or furlough them. And I know I did it. I also know that I fucking wound up here completely by accident and that was just dumb luck. But the combination of all of it, every morning I wake up in bed and first of all, I look at the ceiling and I go, oh my God, is this really happening? Oh my God, this is really happening. Okay, clock, right, reality, not a dream. Holy shit. And then I just go straight into immense amounts of gratitude. It's the only way. It's the answer to all of these questions.
Yeah.
And, you know, anytime something shitty happens and something is lost, because things keep getting lost, people, relationships, career stuff, money stuff, whatever, I'm just like, there's plenty.
Yeah.
I have plenty.
Yes. You need to, you know, that stupid metaphor, like put the mask on yourself before you assist others. You know, you can't, if you fucking kill yourself, not only will you no longer be of use to anyone, but you just showed a bunch of people how to kill themselves. So we can't do that.
And you know who I really don't want to teach that to? And if anyone, you know, I mean, Neil and I both know it about ourselves. We're work slaves, you know, and we could write volumes about why you and me and people like us are so fucking driven to like work and achieve and work and like live for the work and the pat on the head and how much our egos crave to be seen and validated.
Yeah.
But I don't want to saddle my kid with that sickness. I really don't.
Right.
I don't want him to look at us and be like, oh, okay, I get what's normal. You like slave and work and prioritize your ambition above all, and then you die.
It's something different than ambition, though. I mean, we have ambition, but the drive it's more a visceral drive to be like, I won't let you down. You love me? I won't let you down if you love me. I swear I will give you sexy bra time. I will cook. Totally.
Well, somewhere in there, me and you and all of the like crazed workaholic artists of the world, we spend our fucking lives finding the Goldilocks zone.
Yeah.
And no one ever comes along at the end of any given day and it's like, congratulations, you got it right today.
Well, that's the thing. Right. No, like I have so many young artists say, so how did you know when you made it? I was like,
have I?
I made what? What did I make? I was like, there is no making it. There is no it. You just keep making. That's the goal. If you can keep making and you're not phoning it in, you're not like, oh, I have to write another fucking jingle about some stupid cereal with no carbs in it or whatever. I have to fucking paint this asshole family portrait or whatever. It's like, you keep making and finding. It's the act. It's it is the journey. It sounds so fucking corny, but it's the journey and it's the process, just like any life.
It's not corny. It's true. And I fucking love you.
I love you too.
Before we wrap, the pitch is join my Patreon, join Storm's Patreon when she starts it.
When I had it, yeah.
I'll be like, it might be months, it might be years, but she'll do it, hopefully.
Sooner than that,
I will buy in.
Yay!
And the big general pitch from me to you is, especially going into this winter, I know so many artists who aren't so big and successful that they can float for fucking 9 months, 18 months on Spotify streams. If you see an artist that you've ever loved or enjoyed at a gig or on Spotify or on the radio or whatever, if you see them asking for help because they have a crowdfund, because they have a Patreon, because they are like, holy shit, I'm strapped, here's my Venmo, don't hesitate.
Yeah.
If you stop and think about it and you consider, just do it.
Yeah.
Just do it.
If you can help, you should.
You
definitely
should.
Always help if you can.
And and that again is not to diminish all the other people and things that need help. There are a billion, literally billions of people who are going to need help in the coming season. Yeah. But artists too, we're in there. And we're not above it.
Yeah. We're not like out of the fray. Like people, because they know our names doesn't mean that we're rolling in dough and everything's taken care of, but Amanda and I are definitely doing better than a lot of other artists. And so we look out for our people and we help each other. That's what community is about. So,
and thank you, Storm, for being on my podcast. You guys, if you're listening to this and you want to hear us like really go for it, get the podcast. It's really good.
Yeah.
And my podcast coming out tomorrow is with Tim Ferriss, and it's also really good.
Amazing.
Next week is Tim Minchin. That one's really
good.
Give
him my love. I love Tim. Give him my love.
And if you aren't able to afford Patreon, don't do it.
Yeah.
Like, just stay tuned in general. We'll keep asking you. We'll keep asking you for help, and then one day, if you can afford it, come on over. That's the deal.
But it's not a velvet rope. It's not like, oh, you're not on Patreon, you can't enjoy this. It's like, it's not a velvet rope to keep people out. It's inclusive.
Exactly. And that's why. That's why. Like, the people who can afford it. So the people who can't afford it can just still access everything. And it's a really good model for the future. Mm-hmm. Because guess what? Spotify is not paying any musicians' bills right now. It's just really not. You guys have to understand the mechanics of how the music business works. And if you are really moved by an artist, a little means a lot. So join their Patreon for $1. Mm-hmm. It's not a lot. It's $12 a year, and it will mean a lot. Do it. Do it. Do it. Do it. Do it. Do it. And we love you. And Storm, when you start up your Patreon and you do your once in a while pajama parties, I will be there in my pajamas.
Yay!
And sexy bra with wine. And let's do our Patreon tutorial at some point.
Yeah,
even if it's
totally.
Just another one of these, and we keep talking about it. There's a lot of people here who are asking for that, so let's do it.
Okay, awesome.
Do it.
All right, I love you so much.
You want to see the beautiful yard before we?
Yeah, I do.
It's so gorgeous because it's the time of year. Summer in New Zealand.
Do you have thunderstorms every day? It looks like thunderstorm clouds.
It's stormy today. That's Ash's secret reading tree. Look at that fucking tree.
Oh, wow.
It's a weeping ash.
Oh, that's beautiful.
I love you. I love all of you. All of you. Thank you for tuning in. Even middle finger person, we love you too. We love all of you. Can we smush our boobs together?
Do it.
What? Bye, Storm.
Bye.